So now we have another guest with us today, and I am very honored to introduce Roy Cooper, who has spent nearly 3 decades in public service, protecting families, keeping communities safe, and working to create jobs and improve schools. The son of a school teacher, he knows that education creates opportunity, and he has worked throughout his career to strengthen our schools and create a sound foundation for our state's children. In the North Carolina House and Senate, Roy Cooper fought to increase teacher pay and reduce class size. He wrote North Carolina's first children's health insurance initiative. And during his service in the legislature, Roy Cooper worked with members of both parties to get balanced budgets and raise teacher pay to the national average, grow the economy, and cut taxes for middle-class families. In 2000, the people of North Carolina elected Roy Cooper as Attorney General, where he continued to fight for families for 4 terms. Roy Cooper believes in the potential of our great state and its people. He knows that we can build a state and an economy that work for everyone by investing in our public schools and giving students the tools they need to succeed, creating good jobs and raising incomes for the middle class, and strengthening our communities. North Carolinians can live and work in places they are proud to call home. And I am proud to call Governor Roy Cooper the governor of North Carolina. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, you are too kind. Thank you so much. Welcome all my fellow North Carolinians. Welcome to those who have come from other states to the place where Smart Start was founded. We hope that this conference will be beneficial to all of you. I'm so grateful and humbled to be serving as governor of North Carolina. And one of the amazing aspects of this job is the quality of the people who have told me, I'm ready to serve. I'm ready to step away from my business. I'm ready to cast aside some things that I've been doing. And we're getting high quality people who are ready to work and ready to get North Carolina on track. And I'm delighted with my new Department of Health and Human Services Secretary, Mandy Cohen, and we also have the new Deputy Secretary who's been on the job three days now, who's going to be heading up early childhood, Susan Perry Manning. Thank you. And I want to thank you for being here and for caring. In 1993, I was serving in the North Carolina Senate, and there was a guy that most of you know by the name of Governor Jim Hunt, who had this thought, had been reading the science, that it mattered what happened to a child all the way from birth to kindergarten, and that kids were arriving at kindergarten in different states of readiness. Some, mostly from middle, upper-class families, were arriving ready to learn. Others, many from lower socioeconomic families, were not ready to learn. And the science showed clearly that early interaction with that child from birth, of a mom and a dad and family members talking to that child, reading that child books, was making connections in that child's brain to get them ready to learn to go to school. And during that period of time, We had a situation where we had a mixed legislature, both Republicans and Democrats, and there were some people who were very skeptical of getting government into the process of early childhood. And what we decided to do was build what ended up being a dynamic public-private partnership that addressed children at every stage of their preparedness to get ready to go to school. We had long fights in the legislature about how this would be structured, but we knew what we wanted. We wanted local control. Different communities had different needs. We wanted private businesses to invest in this. We wanted them to be a part of it. We also wanted to bring in medical professionals and social workers and educators and people who touch children's lives at every aspect. And we wanted to bring them together to coordinate their effort to make sure every single child, every one of them, was ready to go to school when that time came. And once these partnerships were formed, and once these dialogues began to occur, and once people started talking to each other and coordinated, we saw a significant effect in making sure that kids were ready to learn when they went to school. And people from all over the country came to North Carolina to look at this public-private partnership model about how we can positively affect the lives of kids even before they get to us in kindergarten. And even without increases in appropriations for Smart Start, which needs to occur, and by the way, in my proposed budget, Common Ground Solutions, I have proposed the first increase in funding for Smart Start since 2008, $15 million. But even without it, the communication and the ability to coordinate efforts across our state has been beneficial. Many of you sitting in this room have made a difference. Many of you have been involved in this process and know its effectiveness. So thank you. I do know that this state of North Carolina was built on education. My mom was a public school teacher. I'm a product of the public schools. My 3 daughters are products of the public schools. I am so grateful for the public education that I received. And not only is education in our state constitution, it is in our DNA as North Carolinians. It is what has made us a beacon in the South for so many decades. We were the first state in this country to open our doors to higher education supported by the public. And we also were the first state in this country in 1993 to build a comprehensive, multifaceted early childhood education program that meets the needs of kids from every angle. It's birthed through higher education. And it matters. People ask me at the end of the day, well, what do you want out of this? What do you want out of being governor? I tell them this: I want a North Carolina population that's better educated, that's healthier, and got more money in their pockets. And they have the opportunities to live a more abundant and purposeful life. That's what I want at the end of the day. And I tell the people who are working with me and the secretaries that I appoint to keep that vision in mind as they go about their day-to-day efforts in running state government, in putting ideas before the public, in making sure that people are doing the right things in child care centers, and making sure that North Carolina is moving forward. Coming back to this education theme, it's part of the values that I got growing up in Eastern North Carolina, the value of education, the value of hard work, the value of a dollar. Education is where we're going to be able to get the good jobs of the future for our kids and for adults, for that matter. I believe that North Carolina can be a top 10 educated state by the year 2025. There is no reason why we can't do that. And there's several metrics which I believe are important in reaching that goal. First, we only have 22% of our kids enrolled in pre-K. That's unacceptable. Not only do we need to do better before they get to pre-K, because a lot of evidence shows us that much earlier than that it matters. But in talking to elementary school teachers across our state, I spend a lot of time in our schools, the differences that you see in kids coming in, pre-K matters. We need to get that figure by 2025 to at least 55% or more. And in my budget, I have proposed funding for all 4,700 kids who are on the waiting list right now for pre-K. And we have to do even more than that to create more opportunities out there for kids to be able to get into pre-K. And I mean quality pre-K and the kind of pre-K that we know will help children succeed. So we've got to do that. We also need to increase the number of kids who graduate from high school. We know that that is essential. Right now we're in the high 80s. We need to be in the 90s. And we also need to increase the number of advanced degrees. Right now we're only about at 38%, and we need to be at 55% or more, because we know that the jobs not only of tomorrow, but of today require more education, more critical thinking skills. Now, so I propose funding for Smart Start, for pre-K, to get our teacher salaries to the first in the Southeast in 3 years and to at least the national average by 5 years, investing more in our public education support staff, investing more in our community college, providing free community college for kids who get good grades and who have used their last dollar for financial assistance, funding for our great universities, which are our linchpin of research and innovation and creating the jobs for tomorrow. I've made those investments because we have been behind on those investments since the recession. So you say to me, a logical question, where are you going to get the funding? How are you going to pay for this? My question is, how are we not? Because here we are at a point in time where the economy is getting a little better. The tax revenues are coming into state government at a better clip. A lot of middle-class families and a lot of working people have not experienced this recovery yet. You talk to them, they're struggling making ends meet, they're worried about getting their kids educated. I talk to them often, and they haven't seen it, but we do know things are getting better overall, and we need to help make life better for them. I presented a budget that did all of the things that I just said to you. I did not raise a single tax, nor a single fee. However, where we are and where there is a difference between what I'm proposing and what the General Assembly Republican leadership is proposing is the fact that, for example, the Republican leadership in the Senate has proposed a $1 billion tax giveaway. And I say that because it cuts the corporate tax further, even though we're lowest in the Southeast. And it also has income tax cuts that mostly benefit the wealthy. The wealthy in this tax cut proposal gets 60 times more than the average middle-class family. That's $1 billion that can go into all of the things that I'm talking about, investment in education, and also some middle-class tax cuts. I proposed the reinstatement of the child care and dependent tax credit, which I think helps working families with child care and with quality child care. So we can do it. We can do it if we stop these giveaways. Guess where I have been making this kind of speech, saying these very words? To chambers of commerce all across North Carolina. And the reason I'm doing this is because the CEOs that I talk to, their first question to me is not, what's your corporate tax rate? Their first question to me is, do you have the people who can perform the jobs that I create? Do you have that well-trained workforce with critical thinking skills? When I come to North Carolina, are my employees' families going to have good schools and a good quality of life? Are they going to have community colleges that help train my workforce, universities where my kids can go to school and where they can go to school? Those are the questions for the kinds of jobs that we want. And a lot of CEOs are agreeing with this, and they will say they support education. And many of them are proposing to the General Assembly to support this idea of eliminating the waiting list for pre-K. And many of them understand the science and realize that investment in kids early will lead to a better workforce down the road, and that these investments are essential. But are they ready to make that next step to say, but in order to do that, I know you got to pay for it, and therefore do not cut the corporate tax? That's what they need to say. Some of them are. We need more of them to say it. I know this group isn't going to have a hard time with that, but I want you to anyway. I think it's critical to the future of our kids, the future of our state, and what kind of North Carolina that we're going to be. I believe that we are set to take off if we invest in education and if we make the right decisions about where we're going to go. I also have a program plan called Whole School, Whole Child, Whole Community, figuring ways to connect everyone in the process who are around these children early in life. I think that it is limitless what we can do. I'm going to encourage business people to support the Smart Start effort. I'm going to encourage the General Assembly to make sure that they appropriate additional funds to Smart Start. I think you need to be talking to business leaders in your communities so that they can tell the General Assembly how important this is, because sometimes it gets tied up in partisan politics. And I believe that education is an area where we can find and where we must find common ground. Because if we don't, we're going to be headed in the wrong direction. I am so grateful for this group. I hope the conference is good. I look forward to getting the report and reading what you have to say so that we can implement what we're doing going forward. I don't know about some of you other states, but we have issues of education governance in North Carolina that we are working through. Who's in charge of education in North Carolina? The governor, the State Board of Education, the superintendent of public instruction. Who's in charge of early childhood? The Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Public Instruction. There is a lot to do and to talk about, but the goals are the same. It's like my Economic Development Partnership Board in Commerce, the structure doesn't matter that much if we all know where we're going, and if we talk, and if we collaborate, which is what Smart Start does. So, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to moving North Carolina ahead, making education count, and I look forward to hearing from you about what we can do to make better the lives of children in North Carolina and all over our country. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.